Hello, and welcome to this Youth Issues program. As young people, we face many challenges, and our goal is to talk about these challenges and to provide solutions for them. For the next few minutes, we will be talking about choosing a career. My name is Anna, and joining me are my friends Melita and Brandon. Now, Melita and Brandon are married, and Melita is a project manager in the food industry, and Brandon is a marketing manager in education. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Before we begin, let's hear from Espen.
Hi, my name is Espen and I'm currently at university studying media arts, hoping to one day get into the film and television industries. Yes, I know, I'll probably be living at home way into my 30s. I used to want to be a lawyer, so that's a little bit of a change in career prospects. I used to be really passionate and even obsessed about doing law. Like, I couldn't see why other people would find it boring. I found it just so exciting. So I tailored my whole school career towards doing law. For work experience, I went to a solicitor's office and I went to court several times just to sit in and watch. And for my A-levels, I chose English literature, economics, and psychology. All academic, essay-based subjects, which I hoped would help me towards getting into law. And it did help because in 2011, I started university for the first time doing law. But then 6 months into the course, I had a stroke and was forced to take a leave of absence. Now, during this leave of absence, I started to realize that my passion for law just seemed to be gone. I don't know if there's something that happened in my brain because of the stroke or whatever, but I could now see why people found law to be boring. I mean, I tried to study and tried to get back into it, but I was falling asleep while doing revision. So eventually I decided to just drop out of law, to not go back to that university, because I really didn't think I would be able to complete the degree since I really just had no interest in it anymore. Which was a really big deal for me because, as I said, I had tailored my whole school career towards doing law, and I honestly thought I wouldn't have a future. I think we have it drilled into us in school that we have to choose exactly what we want to do because the subjects that we choose will determine our fate forever, which just simply isn't true, and I guess I'm living proof of that. I mean, I got into this media arts course despite having never done a creative subject before in my life. The only thing I had to show was these YouTube videos that I've been doing for a few years as a hobby, which really wasn't of a very particular high standard. I mean, I had these academic subjects which really showed that I could do essays and had a mind for analyzing and stuff like that. And then my videos kind of showed that I had a creative flair as well, and so they accepted me, gave me an unconditional offer, which was really, really nice and made me feel like it wasn't a hopeless case after all. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't feel anymore like I have to have one career for the rest of my life. I mean, if I was to change my mind again, hopefully not, and go back to wanting to doing law in like 10 years, I feel like I could start university again and have a different career. Like, it's possible. It probably wouldn't be a good thing to do because I'd be really old and, you know, you have to work yourself up and stuff, and I don't want to change my mind again. But I could do it. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Hopefully this made some kind of sense, and yes. How do I say goodbye in this thing? I don't know. Thank you.
Now, when I talk to my parents or other older adults, they say that they knew what they wanted to do since they were very little, and then they grew up and that's what they did. But I find this situation very irrelevant, especially in my generation. I think a lot of people still don't know what they want to do, even after they finish their degree. Why do you think this is?
I think they have more choice now, maybe. My parents are probably the same. They've been in the same companies for almost 40 years. I think at the time it was maybe a slightly different culture. You have the mentality of, the parents need to go out and work and provide, for the family. Now, our generations, we maybe rely on our parents more, so we have a bit more freedom to pick and choose what we want to study and maybe change more often with a bit of a support mechanism behind us. I just think that a lot of times when, I can't speak for the older generations, but I can, from what I've experienced and seen, they may have just had a clearer view and stuck to their goals.
Mm-hmm. I also think that today there's a lot more information, so we're saturated with information, whether it's online, on TV. You've got teachers that inspire you, you have parents that know you so well, so they guide you. And I think as a teenager, you kind of think, oh my goodness, there's so much information coming my way, I actually don't know what to do next. So it's all about how do you figure out who are the right people to help you make a decision, and where do you go to find the right information.
What about your experiences? How did you decide to have the career you have?
I think my decision, I've been in marketing now, my career in marketing has been about 7 years now. My interest for marketing started in high school, and it was actually a class that we had where our teacher gave us the project to create our own brand of breakfast cereal.
Okay.
It was a bit of a random one, but we had to come up with the name, we had to come up with the packaging, we had to come up with the slogans and the identity of the brand. We had to pitch it and sell it to our fellow students. And that kind of gave me the kind of steer that I was looking for, because I wasn't extremely interested or particularly good at sciences. Things like history were interesting, but I couldn't remember all the dates. Business always seemed something that I could relate to, and then the marketing element of business was the creativity that I would like to kind of combine those two, so I felt it was a really good fit.
That's good.
For me, it all started, actually it was a movie that I saw once called What Women Want, and it's all based around this advertising agency that was trying to create an advertising campaign for a product for women. And I remember just watching the creative director try and come up with all these different ideas, and they were drawing it all on these different boards to prepare this ideal campaign for the client. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, I love this. I get to be creative, I get to mingle with people. And so that kind of stuck in my head. And then also just talking to my parents daily about life and general things, and obviously they know me so well that they gave me a lot of guidance in terms of, well, you're really good at this, you're not so good at this, so what about this kind of direction? And in fact, I started thinking about communications as a kind of broader career, but marketing as one of the options, so going into kind of the business route. And then my father actually had a look around kind of abroad to see, is there a university that has a degree that I could be interested in? So with the guidance of my parents, I think that was how they got me to take that next step. And then I went into communications with an emphasis in advertising. So it all started from a movie, and I ended up in university doing exactly that.
So you both had found something that you were interested in, and you did something tangible, something practical that helped you to achieve that goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing for me that I learned was I'm young. My parents have more experience. Some teachers that were inspiring have more experience. So for me, it was good to actually listen to the advice, but not forget the key thing, which is, what am I passionate about? And for me, my passion was to be creative.
From what you're telling me so far, it seems like you've had very supportive parents, which is really great, because a lot of my friends or other people I know have parents who have these high expectations of them, and they feel like they have to go into a career just because their parents want them to.
Definitely.
I think that's challenging, I suppose, in a way. Maybe we're lucky. I think it's the stereotypical example is my mom's a doctor, my dad's a doctor, my grandpa was a doctor, now I have to be a doctor as well. And I think that there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're young, especially if your parents are paying the bill for medical school, that you feel almost obligated to do that. And it takes probably somebody, if they're not actually interested in doing that, it probably takes a really strong person to almost do their own thing. I can't say exactly what you should or would do in that situation, but I think it's definitely up to, if you're getting pressure from your parents and it is something that you might enjoy or you like, then it could work in your favor. If it's something that you really dislike, then I think you need to establish what it is you're passionate about and focus on that as well.
So you're saying that it's really important to do something you enjoy.
Yeah.
You need to love what you do.
Yeah.
If you don't love what you do, you will be miserable, to put it bluntly.
I think if you don't, what you need to do is find out what you'd like to do and see how that could work. The bottom line of getting a job is, well, you need to support yourself to live. But secondary to that is you have to find something that you're going to do for 8 hours, 10 hours a day for the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life. So just picking a job purely because it pays well, but you don't enjoy it, that's not really a nice balance in your life. If you do something that you enjoy, or at least do something that's getting you closer to doing the thing that you enjoy, then, for example, maybe the money's not as good, but you're happier and your quality of life is better. So it's a trade-off sometimes, I think.
Is it okay to change your passions? If, like Espen, he really liked law at first, but then he decided that actually he wasn't interested anymore.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to change your passion or change your career path or your goals. I can't remember exactly where I read it, but there's a statistic of, I think it's 5 times roughly in the life of sort of our generation that you'll change careers. Maybe not drastically change paths from law to media like Espen's doing, but at least slightly change the compass and focus in a different direction that maybe you're more interested in. And I think you're only really going to know if you really don't like something when you start doing it. So to almost say, I'm going to be a lawyer, and then having not studied law, having not practiced law, having never been to a court or, shadowing a solicitor, until you do those things, you might not realize that it's not for you. So in Espen's case, he did those things, and then he realized that media and entertainment was more of his passion. And
So it's a kind of thing of try before you buy.
Yeah. I mean, one of the points he mentioned was it might feel like these days it gets drilled into us that, what you decide to do in university will dictate what you do for the rest of your life. And I think it's important to remember that your degree doesn't have to dictate what your career choice is. It can lead you in a certain direction. Or you might finish university and then, or halfway through university like Espen did, just realize, actually, this is not what I want to do, and your passion changes because of an experience or an incident or something major that happened in your life. So the key thing is actually your career journey is actually the key thing to realize, that your career path it's a journey. So it can change as it goes along. And a life is just full of experiences that will impact you and influence you in many ways.
I think it's interesting, or something else to think about as well. When I was doing my master's degree, which was in marketing, I had a pretty clear idea of where I was going to go, so I'm a little bit pigeonholed in the sense that I thought of marketing and doing marketing now. But a really close friend of mine who's on my course as well, he did his first degree in law. And it was one of those typical, his family kind of wanted him to do law, he did law, and that was a very popular program in the country that he came from. But when he finished his studies, his undergraduate degree, he decided, I'm interested in advertising, marketing, publishing, media, so I'm going to do a master's in marketing, and then took a little bit of a different route. And the interesting thing is you can always combine and relate, knowledge and information from different degrees in different sectors. So you're not wasting time by studying or trying something, because you can always use that as a foundation in the other direction that you go as well.
How important do you think it is to, like you said, shadowing a solicitor or doing something in that field? Maybe at my university, I was offered the option to do a placement year. I decided not to do it, and I kind of regret not doing it because now I don't have that experience.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I would, I wish I would have done a placement year or study abroad year or something that takes you into kind of real life environments. And I'm lucky enough where I currently work now to mentor a placement student every year. So I have a placement student that works with me on a daily basis. Normally they come from the business school or from a marketing type of degree. My current placement student comes from a digital technology and sports studies degree, which is a little bit aside from marketing, but he's really interested in it. And it's great to see them kind of gain the confidence and experience throughout that year. I think a lot of time people or students might not do that because they feel like, if I take this year to do this, my friends are graduating before me, things are happening, I just want to finish my degree and go traveling or go get a job. But I think it really helps them in the future.
And I think now you will find a lot of companies create opportunities for internships or work experience. And it might be with some companies you have to finish your degree, but at least you don't need to go straight into this full-time job. You can go and experience like for 2 months in one department, and next month you can go to a totally different department within that company just to experience the various jobs that you could be doing. And if they like you and you like them, there could be success there in the sense that they give you a full-time job. So this is definitely a piece of advice that I would give, that if you get that opportunity and it comes your way, I would just grab it, because while you're young, you want to experience different things.
I think a lot of friends that I have, and I think in our generation, I think, like you said, because of media, we have this idea that we'll finish university and go into this great job straight away and make all this money straight away.
Yeah, I think that might happen for a small percentage of people, but I think what you mentioned earlier about first taking opportunities to looking for the job that's going to get you the job that's going to get you the job that you want. I mean, my first job, my part-time job while I was studying in high school was, mowing lawns, trimming hedges, painting things. It wasn't particularly glamorous, but it was keeping me active. I think that's important as well, not just studying and then going home and playing PlayStation, but studying, doing something else. From there, I went on to start my actual marketing career. And that was quite good to give me some grounding and experience. And while I was finishing my master's, I got into working in market research. And market research was interesting for a very short time before I got really bored with it. And it was not the type of direction in marketing that I wanted to be in. I did it for almost 2 years. And when I moved to the kind of marketing communications, marketing services strand, I was able to use that experience, and actually a lot of the questions that I was asked in my interview for the job I have now I was able to base my kind of, give me an example when, on the job that I was doing previously in market research. And subsequently, almost every time there's any sort of research happening in the team, they come back to me to, can you check this before we send it out, make sure it makes sense. So there's always something in the things that you do.
So in a way, you might not be in the job you want, but it will definitely help you to get to where you want.
I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously there's part-time jobs where you might be waitressing or you're, washing cars or something, and those all show that you're, you can manage your time, that you're eager to work and to do things and to balance that over studying. So I think employers will see that as a positive, even though washing cars might not lead you to owning a car wash facility unless that's something you want to do, but it does show ambition.
I read recently this article that was saying that in the near future, a lot of jobs are going to be created where university degrees aren't needed. So people don't have to go to university. They can just start and they have on-the-job training, apprenticeships, things like that. What do you think?
I think if you have the opportunity and the financial support to go to university, I would take that, because every little bit of academic knowledge and will help you grow and help you develop your thinking about even your career. But I think if you have the ambition and the drive and you've got goals that you're excited about achieving, then I think you can definitely not go to university and try maybe starting your own business or just get into working straight away. I think that's definitely a more challenging direction to take, but there are several examples, Richard Branson being one, just to show that you don't necessarily have to go to university to achieve and be extremely, extremely successful.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting because the normal, when you think of like vocational qualifications or apprenticeships, that you tend to think plumbers, bricklayers, very hands-on type of work. And a lot of those type of jobs, which are very important, you can just go and learn on the job. Normally, if you want to go out and maybe start your own company, your own bricklaying or your own construction company, you'll need some sort of qualifications and accreditation. So there will be an element of studying. It might not be very like academic writing essays, but there will be, you go to a college and you do this for 2 years, you get a qualification. So I think it's a little bit of it's not just not going to university, it's just not going to the typical standard, take a whole range of different subjects, write a lot of essays, do a lot of tests, and then come out and not know what you want to do. I think it's if you know that that's the type of area you want to go into, you can do IT, graphic design. These are all hands-on. Fashion. These are industries and jobs. I think that you need to be able to show creativity. You need to be able to actually do something physical. Whereas a lot of maybe academic type jobs are more thinking and typing and looking at spreadsheets, which, if that's not your thing, then you don't need to do it.
Quote actually that Richard Branson posted read something like, if you aim for the moon, you might miss it, but you'll still be amongst the stars. So there shouldn't be anything stopping you from reaching for being a CEO if you want, and you might not get there straight away or ever, you might not get there, but you'll still be amongst or within a job that you're really excited about and really passionate about, and it might just take a little bit more time to grow to get to your goal.
I think there's also the option you touched on earlier about starting your own business as well. I know quite a few people who have started their own business, and I've had business ideas, and the interesting thing is people think, it's really complicated and it's hard, but all you need really is an idea. You need to think of the idea, find somebody that, is willing to give you money for that idea, whatever it might be, and you work towards, selling that and doing that. And interestingly, statistically, in the UK, 99.9% of all private sector businesses are small or medium enterprises. Mm-hmm. There's only 0.1% that are like big companies. And when you think about the people that go to university to come out with a suit and tie to go work at a corporation, that percentage of people is pretty narrow compared to the number of people that are, running the high street shops, starting online stores, selling vegetables in the market. Those are all small businesses, and they started from somewhere.
Do you think it's important nowadays to go beyond just a bachelor's degree? I think some jobs are so competitive, you need at least a master's or at least a doctorate.
The simple answer would be, if you want to start off at a slightly higher salary, get a master's.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where 10, 15 years ago, you needed a bachelor. This is coming back to the parents' question earlier, or the topic of our parents studying. you didn't need a university degree to get a job in our parents' day. You could get a 2-year kind of diploma from a college and start, and then that's the whole idea about growing from the bottom to the top. Then it was, you know, you're not going to have a chance unless you have a bachelor's, and then that kind of expired. And now it's not going to have a chance unless you have a master's. And I think having an extra couple letters after your name might add a bit more weight to your CV. But even now, I think a master's degree has almost become a standard. And it's interesting that the university that I work for, when they look for tutors and lecturers, they won't hire you unless you have a PhD. So now it's moved beyond that, for certain industries, obviously, to even higher levels. So
it really depends. If you want to take the academic route, master's and PhD is probably a must. I think in my case, kind of taking that marketing route, the master's that I took in marketing did give me probably a bonus on paper to get me an interview. But once I got the interview, the master's wasn't even talked about. It was all about my personality, what have I got to offer them, how am I going to be an asset in their company. So, you know, it's definitely, you will definitely benefit from having more degrees and a higher degree, but it really depends on the type of career that you're wanting to take.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that, you know, the master's might sound kind of big and scary. A lot of the times it's a 1 or 2 year program, and it can be expensive. And if kind of finances are a factor in that, you don't have to necessarily do a traditional kind of master's. There's all sorts of online learning capabilities. You can do online masters, which are much cheaper. You can do just free courses and lectures. iTunes U has all sorts of different academic things you can just watch and absorb and use that. I mean, obviously it doesn't necessarily give you a certificate or something to put on your CV, but you have that kind of understanding and foundation to base a lot of your future decisions on.
What advice would you give to, I have a lot of friends who have this dream about becoming an actor or an actress or a singer or something like that. What advice would you give to them?
Actually, it's a really funny question, because 2 days ago I was leaving my office and I ran into a friend of mine, and he's been pursuing that for a couple of years now. He's very entrepreneurial because he starts his own businesses. He's never, from as long as I've known him, had a job, a typical job where you go and you get a paycheck from somebody for doing something for them. He started his own companies, 2 or 3 of them. Those run. He's pursued all sorts of different qualifications. He's training to be a stuntman. He just got his lifeguards thing. He's got all these different things because he wants those to look good when he goes and auditions for roles. So he's been, you know, he just told me for the last 2 months, he's had like 3 days off where he's not been on film sets. Wow. Compared to a year ago where it was like, you know, he was struggling. He's like, I was an extra for this movie and then nothing for 3 months. But you have to be persistent and work towards that. I think it's interesting.
So I guess the advice would be that if that's what you want to do, nothing should really stop you from pursuing it. As long as you have the ambition and the drive, you know, it's an art being an actor or an actress. So.
Yeah, I think no matter what, if it's acting, if it's marketing, if it's building houses, I think if you're not proactive, if you're not pushing and striving for something, then it's not going to happen. You can't just kind of sit back and wait for it.
Yeah, wait to be discovered.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's being an entrepreneur, I think, being an actor or singer, because you are the business, you're running your business, who is you, and selling yourself in that sense. Yeah,
I met a student. We were doing a recruitment thing, and we met this student who was an incredible artist, painting, drawing, anything, but he absolutely hated the idea of going to school, to college, anything to do with academics. He just did not want to know about. So he was the type of, typical, I've got all my charcoals and my pencils, but I'm just going to skip all my classes. Okay, well, you're going to fail, but it's not. And then you just think. His thought was, yeah, but I'll just do my art and somebody will discover it. But if you don't, you can go to different courses in your college or university, and you can learn how to promote yourself, like we were saying. You can learn how to build a brand around yourself. You can learn how to market your own work, how to build a basic website to showcase your work, how to sell it online with some e-commerce sites. You can find that stuff out online too, but regardless of which way you do it, you have to educate yourself. You can't just rely purely on your talent and then wait for something to happen.
And I think I would ask myself, if I wanted to be a famous singer, what's the goal? What is it I want to achieve? Is it about I want to make lots of money, or is it about I want to influence people with what I have to say, with an opinion I might have? And I think that will help you. It will help you with your drive and achieve what your goal is, if you kind of have that in the back of your mind.
Those are really good points. And you mentioned Googling and iTunes U. There's LinkedIn. How important do you think these resources are?
I mean, it's only going to get bigger, so there's only going to be more information. And I think finding the right resources is important, because there's lots of random, useless information that can absorb a lot of your time. Lately, I've been on LinkedIn a lot more, trying to build connections, trying to get recommendations about the work I've been doing, trying to meet new people virtually that will, in the future, I can kind of fall back on that to kind of take me where I want to go. So you kind of have to pre-plan a bit, even if it's not your immediate goal or your immediate need, but think a bit ahead of what you might want to do.
I guess it goes back to that. Take any opportunity that comes your way, whether it's networking online with business professionals, or just if you're in the street and you overhear someone that's talking about something that you're interested in, some industry, approach them, say hello, and just start meeting people in that way.
What is kind of a final thought that you want to give, a piece of advice that you want to give to someone who's deciding on their career?
Well, I think we've touched on most of them, but what I would say, if we want kind of to lay them out in a bit of a structure, I would say what we said earlier: do something you enjoy, or at least work towards doing what you enjoy, because you're going to be doing it for a long time, so you might as well have at least a bit of fun doing it. Secondly, I would say don't panic too early on. So the minute you graduate is not the minute you're going to be a CEO of a corporation. The minute you graduate is the minute you think, I've got student loans that I have to now pay, I've got all these kind of things that I have to do, and you're freaking out. But the point is, get something, get some experience, that leads to the next thing, get more experience, and it's just kind of a ripple effect.
The two things that I would say is, one, trust the people that know you and that love you. They know you probably in some ways better than you know yourself, so listen to them and don't be afraid to talk about what you're thinking and if you're confused. And secondly, going back to that keyword, opportunities, take any opportunity that comes your way. Basically, don't use the word no, just if it's something that sounds exciting, take the opportunity.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Never say no to an opportunity, and if it's something you don't know how to do, figure it out pretty quickly.
I think that's a great way to close. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and for offering all of this advice.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. If you want to know more or have any questions or want to share your story, visit us at lifeconnect.info. And I leave you with this thought: live healthy, grow wise, and enjoy your youth.